flying solo today. Decided that this would be a really great day for me to kind of regroup and give vision for the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about motivating teams in times of change. But before that, I just kind of wanted to take some time to talk about why I decided to do a podcast. It's so funny because on socials, because people see me doing a podcast and they're like, oh my gosh, I guess that's what Mindy's doing now. And it is what I'm doing now, but it's a small part of what I am doing. The whole vision for doing a podcast came probably 2 years ago. I have been in a position to be able to speak to a lot of different people in a lot of walks of life. And it was just beautiful kind of to see where people had come from and where they'd been in their lives and things they had seen and hard times they had had and overcome and family things and kid things and spouse things and animal things and just messy things. But I think the most beautiful part of everyone's story was that I noticed that everyone had an extraordinary part of their story. And whether it is a musician that is highly sought after in their career or a actress that has been in it for a long time to someone who is working at your local convenience store. I believe that everyone has a really incredible story to tell and there is something extraordinary about them. And then if you to go even further, those that I have met that are at the peak of their career in their field are actually just ordinary people and really want to be looked at as ordinary people. Drive their car like you and me, sit and need to order DoorDash or whatever. And so that was something that kind of motivated me to kind of talk to a lot of other people, and see where everybody was at in their life. And it kind of had become a passion project of mine. And within that, I knew that it would provide a space for me to speak to a lot of what I am doing currently, and that's working with organizations on their teams, building teams and culture. So for those nonprofit organizations that need to build volunteer teams, I work with them. For other organizations that are an established company, I work with them on high morale and culture. Also, an artist manager. So there are a lot of things that I am doing right now that I believe that a podcast provides a really fun space to be able to talk about those things and hopefully to give insight that can help others in some way or someone's story impact someone's life. And so that is the why behind the podcast. And so always, if you know anybody that you think I need to talk to, please reach out because I would love to hear from them. But it has been an absolute gift to get to know the people that I've had on so far. And I just foresee a lot of people coming my way to be able to share their stories. Even if there's a nugget that you get from that day, for me, it's worth it. I would be talking to a lot of these people anyway. And so having a conversation with a camera rolling is kind of fun. So without further ado, today we're going to be talking about motivating teams in times of change. The way that we motivate teams in times of change is sometimes difficult, sometimes easy. It just depends. But I'm hoping that today I could give you a few pointers that have helped me along the way. Change is inevitable. We hear all the cheesy quotes about change, that it is the only constant thing that will ever happen is change. And what that looks like for a team could be a change in leadership. It could be the team has dropped in number and they lose motivation. It could be the team has actually grown in number and they're individuals that do not feel seen in a large pack of people. It could be the weather is changing, so people don't want to come out. Sometimes holidays are coming and you don't see the people that you had seen for months. Or sometimes the weather's amazing. And so everybody's out on a boat, not hanging out with you. There are a lot of reasons why there are changes within a team. And so I want to talk today a little bit about motivating teams and what that looks like. When morale's low, it feels low. And as a leader, you don't want to fake it, but you also don't want to fall into the doom and gloom of what your team is experiencing. And the best thing that a leader's told me, one of my personal mentors had told me in the past, was not to ride the roller coaster of emotions that you feel when you're leading a team as a leader. And that's easier said than done. That will not always be the case. Sometimes you will have a moment where you feel like you definitely need to just take a second to yourself and regroup. And that's okay. That is 1,000% okay. Um, but also remembering that you are the temperature gauge for your team and you have the ability to turn the ship at any point. And so just know that you have more tools on your tool belt than you think that you do. And so when you're motivating a team, the first thing that you need to know is where your team is at. And a lot of times as a leader, you feel it, right? You can walk in and you see their faces and you know that something is up. And so I would say step one would be to evaluate your team. Ask your inner circle people, the ones that you're close to, the ones that you would sit across the table from. Ask them their opinion. But I would be very focused on what to ask them because you can kind of slip into those conversations as being a doom and gloom, negative, feeding opportunity for people just to vent. And that is not the point of evaluating your team. You're asking your inner circle people to evaluate culturally where your team is at. And we'll talk in another session about different tools that you can use in order to do that, to evaluate your team. But I would say to get you started, just talk to a few, 3 to 5 people that are super close to you on what your team's feeling like lately. Are people coming in excited? Is there something you think that we could do to make it more fun? What are some things you think are affecting our team? And other times in that evaluation, you'll realize that there are individuals that are deeply impacting the team in a negative way. And above all else, the most important thing that you have to protect is your culture above everything else. And so, delicately having conversations with those people to make sure that that's not the reason um, there is negativity in that time of change or a lack of motivation is super important for you to uproot quickly. Again, to step one would be to evaluate that team. Step two would be to bring in some elements of fun. Okay. So we're not going to force fun, but we might a little. So it could be something like a trail mix bar. It could be a bubble blowing contest, you name it. I have done the most random things. Even decorating for the season is fun. If you invite people in to those deeper circles and moments, they're going to create bonds that will last you through those times of change. And what you'll find is that your fat will rise to the top in those moments when you have those culture building opportunities that are fun. People will show up and they'll get to know each other, and they actually will be your foundation for what you're building as you're transitioning into what is coming. And so evaluate elements of fun. And then also, I would just encourage you in this time to be leading yourself well in that time of change. In order to not ride the roller coaster of change, you have to be leading yourself well to make sure that you have great emotional intelligence, to make sure that you can read the rooms that you're in. And the only way to do that is to make sure that you are taking time as a leader to be led. And so be proactive in that. Reach out to people that can lead you well, have coffee with a mentor, sit down and have conversations with those above you that you can't have conversations with those that you're leading. And also, it may take a book, a podcast, a phone call, something to get you out of that funk, and that is okay. Just know that you're going to have to bolster in those times for your team to make sure that you can carry them out of that and gain momentum. And the moment that you see that glimpse of momentum in the future or a light at the end of the tunnel that you've been in. And I promise you, it will come. It will come. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. And when you see just a glimpse, a whole of it coming through, run. Run towards it super fast, highlight every single win. And those people that had walked through that time of change will run with you because in the nitty gritty, when you're down in it, in the trenches, those people that have stuck with you through it are actually coming into the next. And so as you're recruiting, as you're building, those staple core people that have gone through that change with you are going to stick in and be there just to help encourage, train, and be a piece of what you're creating culturally for your team. Again, to reevaluate, there are always going to be times of change within your team. Don't ride the roller coaster of it. Go with the flow. Ways that you could do that or evaluate your team for the times you're in, create elements of fun to make sure that people that are there are continuing to grow and bonding together and run towards that momentum. And I know this is only seasonal, it's only a period of time. And so stay strong. We will talk about more tips and tricks as we go, but hopefully this will help you get through and motivate you in this time of change. Have a good day.